How's it going, guys? Honest Sarcastic with the Hyperloops here. So I don't know which week this is going to end up coming out, so this could be kind of old news at this point. But I wanted to talk about a few of the decks from the recent weekend. I'm not going to talk about like the winners and the losers as much. We're not seeing as many brand new decks. Like Boba 7th finally took one down. We've seen a new Thrawn Towson deck, which was I'm gonna give the credit to the Destiny Council people because I was pretty sure it was them. Actually, yeah, no, it was them. So it was them or their group or one of the guys that they test with, but I think it was their group. So it was yeah, Thrawn plus Towson. It had 30 odds in the deck, so Towson always hit, and they got top 4 with it. And then, if I read correctly, he won game 1 of the best of 3 and then scooped the other 2 to get his teammate to the finals because his teammate did not have his Worlds ticket yet. So I guess I kind of want to talk about Worlds tickets, but I might try to hold off on that. I'm not really sure yet. Give me a second to figure out the best ordering for this, because like there's a big Worlds ticket thing that people really should know. Actually, yeah, we'll just talk about that real quick, then we'll get back to Thrawn Towson. But before Worlds ticket, someone made a Tarkin Towson deck and called it Grandmother because, you know, Grand Moff Tarkin. And I think we should just steal that name for Grand Admiral Thrawn plus Mother Towson, call it Grandmother or Grandmoms. I don't know, something like that. But either way, I think that would be a much better name than Thrallson. But I didn't build it. I don't care. It's whatever. Let's see what sticks. Suckers. Alright, so let's talk about Worlds real quick. As pretty much all of you know that have been interested in Worlds, you had to do like the whole lottery thing and fill out a form. If you didn't know you had to do this, then it's probably most likely too late for you. They have this whole like second, third chance thing I think going on. So feel free to look into it if you've never heard of the whole lottery thing. But the breakdown went like this: if you weren't one of the people who, you know, won the event, had their Worlds tickets reserved or like top 4 at, you know, Continentals. I don't know if Nationals got it for all top 4 or finals or what. But long story short, if you didn't get your Worlds ticket reserved, you had to pretty much fill out a Google form thing. Then they were randomly picking people for the lottery, and you were assigned day a 1A, 1B, or 1C for Destiny, as well as the other Star Wars games that are going to be in this this Worlds. So like a ton of people did not get or win the lottery to get their tickets. And then the other thing is like beyond that, it's also that there's a lot of people who don't get a day that they could actually go, because this Worlds is going to have day 1 split into 3 separate parts of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I think Sunday is going to be like the whole graduated cut from the other 3 days, and then we'll have the top 16. So tons of people are not able to go that really wanted to go. Like in our Hyperloops Discord alone, I'd probably say there's like 20 some odd people that were not able to get tickets. But there's a new weird wrinkle in this. So like you've probably seen tons of people post on Facebook and different stuff about how they were unable to go, or like, you know, something popped up, you know, wedding, you know, having babies. There's just some engagement that popped up that they're just no longer able to go. Maybe work shift, they're going to be out of the country, yada yada. But the one thing most people are not aware of is that you can kind of give your ticket to somebody else. And what I mean by kind of is this. So they sent you a link. You can click on the link. It brings you to the I forget what the hell it's called. I'm going to call it Citywide, but it's not the name. Oh, Showclicks? I think it's Showclicks. That you could go in and purchase said event ticket. Now, what happens is if you click the link, it's only a 15-minute window, and then it goes away. I don't know how it works as far as, emailing and saying, oh, oops, I messed up. But don't click the link if you're not trying to buy it right then and there. So now you have this link in your email address that's sitting there. If you gave this email link to someone else that you liked, us or somebody else, then what would happen is that person could click the link, go in, and when they're purchasing the ticket, it's going to ask for the name, last name, whatever, for the event. So what's going to happen is that, let's say I had 3 email addresses and I got accepted on all 3 because I was, gaming the system. I can actually give those 2 links to 2 of my friends. They can click the link, get in, buy it, and buy it under their name. They don't have to buy it in my name. So like whatever name that I filled out originally, if I even filled one out, does not actually matter. It's whoever clicks the link can go in and buy the ticket for themselves. So this is kind of great and awful all at the same time, because if people understood the system beforehand, there could have been people, 10, 20, 30 email addresses, and then scalping tickets, kind of like dicks. So like, there could be people trying to just sell their tickets for $50, $100 to the people that really, really want to go. And that's kind of scummy, but I understand it. It's a whole supply and demand thing. It sucks that someone could potentially get like 20 tickets like that, and then if they just took $50 off of each person, that's $1,000. Like it's kind of it's rude and mean. But what it also means now is that anyone who did fill out multiples or got accepted but was incapable of going could get their friend in instead. Or, if they want to check with their community or their groups to see who wanted to actually go, they could get someone in. And this is hugely relevant because as long as they didn't have that thing expire or like click into it to let it expire, they can now give that ticket to someone that really did want to go. And hopefully it's someone that they like, or they can help, other community members, yada yada. From there, if people want to, tip somebody $10, we'll get a lunch or something, $20, whatever. Like, that's on them. I don't fault anybody for, an extra $10 here. Like, let me grab lunch. I think, like, 50 or the people going more than that is kind of obscene. Like, I understand there's a lot of want to get to this stuff, but I just hope nobody's abusing it that bad. If someone wants to give someone 50 for being thankful, that's on them. But, like, if they're just literally going, like, oh, no, you can have it, but it's going to cost you 50. It's kind of like, feels a bit scummy. I understand, still, supply and demand, so neither here nor there. But knowing that this is an option is hugely relevant. So I would say search for those guys, people, women, whoever got these tickets that are not going to use them, so you can try to get your ticket. Now, in general, if I have a lot of people that I know need tickets in the Discord, so if any of you find folk, check with your friends first. If everyone's already situated, you have the extra ticket, there's not somebody you wanted to hold it for, please get in touch with us. We have tons of people that would gladly love to get the ticket. As far as remuneration, I cannot guarantee a single thing, but I would probably I'd be content if someone did it, because I think it would be a nice gesture for someone helping somebody else out, instead of taking the risk on just that solo second chance and then spamming whatever refresh button to try to buy a ticket whenever it's first come, first serve. So if you do have anything like that, please let us know. thehyperloops@gmail.com. Yes, I'm using publicity to potentially help people that I like get tickets, and that's that. So I've given you guys information, and also have allowed myself to potentially help out some other people. And no, I will 100% not grab your thing and then resell it at some other value. If I am caught doing that, anyone sees me do that, please be sure to blow my shit up, because I have no intent of doing it. I will forward whatever messages I'm told, and that's about it. But, so yeah, not attempting to make any money, just trying to help some people out. I've seen tons and tons of people that really do want to go, so if you have the extra, you can't go, 100% you're not going, let us know. This applies to more than just Destiny. I know people looking to get into Imperial Assault, X-Wing, the LCG, so any of those at all, let us know. We'll try to get them to people that could use them. And yeah, cool, thanks. All right, so back to the matter at hand. Thrawn Talzin is a super interesting deck. I made 0 adjustments at the beginning to get some test games in, to get a feel for it. Destiny Council guys had done a write-up. I don't think I've read any of it. I may have read a small portion. It may have just been when they talked about the one they gave, because there was a point where they gave the list, and then I think they wrote the list up later with a write-up of probably how to play it and different stuff like that. But the breakdown is that you're going to use Thrawn to mess with their removal. Then you're going to use Talzin's ability to fix your dice into damage between that and then the focus on Thrawn's while making money. And pretty much just try to hit max damage every round. Or like max damage maybe short of 1, depending on how you end up rolling. But that's the gist of what you're aiming for. So that means if you stick, let's say, a DH round 1, you're looking at a max damage of 6. If you stick an Heirloom, it's 7. Force Wave, a little bit harder to use, but that one we're probably looking anywhere from 9 to them, 1 to you, or 10 to them. So, like, these numbers are all, like, viable, and if you really think about it, like, most of the regular decks in general, when you have actual, aggressive characters, you're probably looking at somewhere in that 5 to 6 damage round 1. That's your hopeful, because you expect to get something removed at some point, and then you're hoping the rest of your dice combine to kind of make that amount of damage. So Thrawn being able to get in and potentially clear the way is huge, because if you, depending on the deck you're playing, you call 0 or 1, take out the piece of removal, and then voila, you can kind of go to town. Or if you can't go to town, you can at least see that you can't go to town. And then, like, that's pretty much the gist. And then you're trying to protect your characters, because you kind of need both alive through the end of round 2. If you lose any of your characters at the beginning of round 2, the game's pretty much over. While it's not guaranteed to be over, because you could be playing against like 7th OTK, and then let's say they round 2 kill your Thrawn, but then you round 2 kill their 7th, you probably just win right there. But like in most situations, you lose a character round 2, game's over for that deck. In general, I do want to let you guys know, whilst I think the deck is a great deck, I think it only applies to the better players, or the top end set of players, because this is the way that the deck's going to work. You're pretty much going to activate Thrawn. You're going to have an idea of what your opponent's running and the things you're concerned about. After that, you're going to see their hand. So you have to be able to kind of play out the round in your head and, like, in general. So, like, you have to be aware of, all right, how many actions is this going to take? How do I play around this card? Can I even play around this card? How do I threaten these other things? How do I not die here? How can I, like, reduce the amount of damage I take while still increasing my damage? They're small little things, so it's not a simple deck to play. So you have to be, like, super aware of what you're doing. So if you are terrible with Thrawn, this is not a very good deck for you in general. Now I'm going to stop for just a quick second, because I'm not saying don't ever play this deck. I'm saying don't take this deck to a regional if you haven't played it a ton, or you're not very good, or you're just like average play skill, because you're likely to just fail. Now, playtesting wise, this is an amazing deck to learn this set of skills that you may not have, because you need to actually learn it to make the deck operate and run smoothly. So doing it and focusing on those action things can make you better with not only this deck but other decks in general, because you can kind of start to foresee things. Like, sure, maybe you don't know what's in their hand, but you'll start to think, okay, you know what? They have a 5-card hand. They are villain. They're yellow and they're blue. They're pretty good odds as a 0-cost piece of removal, whether it's doubt, hidden motive, or he doesn't like you in their hand. So, like, keeping this in mind, you can adjust accordingly. Like, maybe you resolve your dice a bit early before trying to focus stuff, like with these are other decks. And play around he doesn't like you because your opponent doesn't have any dice in the pool yet. Or maybe you do a double focus to, a 2 and a 3 damage on Sabine instead of a 3 and a 3 because you don't have the 4-speed and your opponent's yellow and they could just easy pickings both of her 3s. So, like, especially if you only needed 5 to kill, like, you're just playing around the removal that you can play around. So, like, it's small stuff that will become more eye-opening to you with Thrawn, because you're going to see your opponent kind of play a specific way. And now, not everyone plays the same. Like, when you've seen their hand or not seen their hand, some people forget completely that you know what their hand is while you're playing them. But there's several people that, like, once you see their hand, the way they go about with their hand is different, because they just know you're not going to run into like the silly thing. Like, you're not going to run into and it will all be mine, you're showing 4 blinks and he takes the resource to go to the 3rd resource. Like, you're not going to just decide to do something else besides reroll your dice. So they may just not try to even hold the card anymore, because that would just be, you know, bad of them. So, like, there's like little small things that'll add up, but playing the deck in general can increase your skill set, so that is very great. But big event wise, your play skill has to be, like, very good, because you have to know how to use Thrawn properly. You have to be able to order your actions and resolutions correctly, and you need to be able to understand what your opponent's going to do with the cards in their hand, at least for the most part. There's going to be some of those wild card plays where people do something completely unexpected and you just you kind of didn't see it coming. But for the most part, you need to be aware of it. So, yeah. So I think the deck is very solid from that standpoint, because you're looking in that 4 to 6, maybe 7, depending if you can do like an heirloom round 1. And then potentially like nab their guy round 2 because now they're dead. And then like protect your guy with removal, witch magics, etc. So I think the deck is very, very good from that standpoint. I did make some adjustments that I felt were better as far as running it smoother, but that's a different ball game. Like that there's tons of preference in there, and I think there were some cards that may have just slipped minds. But I also don't run 30 odds. I'm playing in that 26 to 28 odd range primarily. I'm fine missing the 1,000 probably like something like every 3 or 4 rounds. But I feel like the couple 0 drops are imperative to the whole spectrum of the game. But that's neither here nor there. So, but either way, I think the deck is very, very strong. It definitely has some issues with any decks that can output fast damage. Like, it can sit there and mess with OTK's hand, but if OTK just like doesn't care about whatever you hit, and so let's say they called a 2 because they just decided, all right, well, if I take their weapon, you know, I'm good, but then you're sitting there with like an Enrage and a Lightsaber pull, or Enrage plus a Maul Saber, like things are gonna go bad. So let's say they call 0, but you know, you have a leadership and like an Ancient or something. Then they take your, you know, Lightsaber pull, but you're still fine because you have your other drop. Like, that's not going to be super huge to them. And their focus sides are much worse because you have access to Night Sister. So without using an action cheat, their 1,000 focus is pretty much worth, you know, 1 damage on your Night Sister. Or if they, you know, single or double focus Thrawn, you could still poke one of the dice. Not to mention that, like, best defense there shifts the damage from the guy that would want to hit to Sienna for 2 of their dice, which is usually worth about 5 damage, and that's hugely relevant. So I have not played the match enough to really give you any sort of percentages on what that looks like, but if OTK just randomly goes off, like, oh, that shit's bad. I just watched the guy like cutting behind, and he's doing some weird shit, so I'm afraid he's gonna smash into me now. He's like biting the shit out of his fingernails and is just kind of like shaking his head. And so yeah, if today's the day to die on video, or if there's a day to die on video, it's today, guys. But it wouldn't be death. He'd probably just smash my car up, and then you'd have a video of me talking shit. Yeah. Anyways, back to the tangent I ran away from. So yeah, Thrawn 1,000 seems very good. I like it as a whole. I think personal adjustments would make sense. So good luck with it. Good luck with your testing on it. But I think it's definitely a place to stay. It seems like it's at least tier 1.5. If the meta ends up being too aggro, it could kind of fall to 2. But I think it just has a good place versus everything. Because nobody wants to like let you into their hand. Like, this dude's just a filp every round for everything. And the more you know about the game, the more effectively you can get into the mind of your opponent. You kind of know what's going on. Oh, playing against Sabine later rounds, like, oh, I'm going to call 3 and take, hyperspace jump, second chance, never tell them the odds, whatever. But trying to get around running interference is really hard. Like, really, really hard. And you can't really run Ren because that's not a odd. So you could make your deck worse to run Ren to play around stuff and then have, like, ginormous issues. But yeah, so that deck's good. The Destiny Council Boba 7th deck, I haven't had real time to test it. Looks very solid from the standpoint that I think it had 5 or 6 zero drop or zero cost of events for potential removal. And then it has like a pretty mainstream game plan. They got rid of I think they have one Maul Saber and like maybe 2 pulls. So they're not on the Maul Saber plan. So people that are pretty much afraid of the Maul Saber would go and straight up attack 7th. But they could just sit there and, Ancient and then Shoto on like Boba. And now Boba's getting his, super suit going. And then by the time you kill 7th, like, you might have traded your own guy with it. And now you're fighting pretty much like the old school R2-P2, where there's this person with Shoto and whatever, like, getting attrition over time. And his dice sides are very, very good. He does have an issue trying to pair up base sides with modifiers, though. Because he only has one of each melee on his character die. But realistically, Phasma runs into that same issue, and the fact is, when 7th rolls out, she has 5 total, whereas Phasma only had 4. But Phasma has the special, and you get access to Throne Room, so it's still a different ballgame. But overall, the Boba 7th definitely seems like it's up and coming. Very solid aggro deck. It has the best zero drop control pieces available. So it can operate on very few resources, which is always a very good thing when you're trying to pump out bigger upgrades, like Ancient. Well, Ancient's only 2, but like Maul Saber. Then they have like the Heirloom and the Cutlass for the bigger redeploys. They're both, I think, 1-ofs right now. So like 1-ofs is probably fine. You should have, in theory, enough time to be able to find it. But that deck seems very good. So we're trying to guess what to play in the meta to beat that stuff is going to be very hard. And like, we'll kind of just see where that goes. Like, the Sabine still being played. Bro TK seen a huge uprising, but I expect it to go back down because it's so like, how it is. Sabine and OTK have really high ceilings. And their floors are a little odd. So, like, the way I would say it is this. Like, with both of those decks, when things are going great, like, it's super memorable. People remember when you roll out and natural hit them with an 8 and killed their guy. And it happened, like, once every, like, 5 rounds or something silly. But what they forget is when Sabine sits there and rolls and she's sitting there looking with her thumb up her butt. And it's like, triple disrupt, a shield, a resource, and a +2, and you're just like, oh, this shit's terrible. Like, alright, well, I'll re-roll, and then, like, you whiff again. And, like, that's the big thing with the deck. Like, people just don't remember those times where you got 3 damage off, and you were just staring at those dice like they were fucking cursed. But they all remember when you smash the 8 down, and then they super remember when you RI never tell me the odds, and you hit them for, like, 11, and they can't interact with it. But they really do. I really feel like they remember that a whole lot, like as if you natural rolled that shit every round. And that's really just not how it works, or every deck would lose to it. And every deck can lose to it, but it's just not that it's just not the same odds. So like, under normal probability, yes, you might be the guy who got nut rolled by a Sabine, but the next guy is most likely not going to also get nut rolled by Sabine. Unless that guy did the floaty tests and all the Sabines only show 2s and 3s. Then that's a different ballgame, because that guy's got the best dice ever. So like, Bro TK, that stuff, like when your dice rolls are not, you know, spitting hot fire, you have to be able to know how to survive. Use your Night Sister rolls, use Ezra to like force them into not so great positions, know when to reroll, know when to not reroll, when to resolve your dice, claim the battlefield to make sure that you don't lose that additional resource in the card draw for finding second chance, mulliganing properly, not getting your the resources disrupted like I've watched people do all of the time. Like, you have no idea how many times I'll just like, so not in Bro TK, but like let's say I'm playing it's Boba 7th or anything like that, and you first activate 7th, you're 40% to hit a disrupt. So that means that if you went first and you show that and they don't cast their weapon, you are eating their resource. If Sabine goes first and rolls out Ezra and they're not showing a disruptor special, because that would just mean you need to play your weapon, and you rolled out 7th like that and you hit the disrupt, they need to cast their weapon on Sabine right away. And I watch a lot of people not do it because they're too intent on the whole action sheet. And it's like, you fool, like, what are you doing? Like, cast your stupid weapon down before I eat your resource. And then, okay, I ate the resource, and then they're like, oh shit, how do I get out of this? And they're like looking for this resource on Ezra and re-rolling, and then like, alright, well, whatever, they gave up. They finally roll out Sabine, and then I eat one of her dice, and now they can't re-roll anymore. Or they re-roll like straight into oblivion, so then like their round is done, they didn't get a weapon down, they've taken some damage, and they're just like in the worst position ever. You have to learn when there's a disrupt showing and you have the 2 resources for your weapon, you probably just cast your weapon and give up on the whole action sheet. Like, if you have both weapons in hand, you can cast one on her and then still do your normal discard for Ezra, and then just rip it up back and overwrite. But like, that doesn't happen all the time, so you have to just be super aware that disrupt is going to cause you fits, and if you don't take the weapon, then it's probably gonna be a bad time. Like, it's different, I guess, if someone rolls out, like, you know, I can't even think of some huge damage. Like, they got an Ancient out, they rolled out like 2/2/3 on Ancient, and then a disrupt on the droid die, and you easy pickings both 2s. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, you don't want to sit there and take 7. So if you give up your weapon die, you're doing it for the 4. But I've seen far too often people are just like, oh, I'll re-roll my Ezra now, and then it's like, oh, awesome, you rolled Ezra and lost your weapon. Like, you could have had your weapon and re-rolled and just lost your action sheet. Like, good job. But so like, keep this stuff in mind. Like, these are the small things that'll add up to losses through the game. And a lot of the time people are just complaining about their cold dice rolls and, oh, you rolled well. And it's like, no, you suck. That's why you lost. Because you don't know the differences between this, the action stuff. You don't realize that, oh, there's a Ewok, I think it's Village, or Garden, I forget which one it is. It's the one that the battlefield that eats shields. So then they're sitting there, you know, resolving on their dice, and your opponent has a shield left, so you're waiting for them to take the shield so you can claim to get rid of it. They're just going to claim. Because why would they put themselves in the same position with you at the battlefield? They won't. So they'll claim, they'll take it, and that's assuming, you know, they don't have removal for something that you're about to do, or you're, like, whatever's going on. Or, okay, they have a resource die in the pool, and now you resolved your shield, and then they claimed that, I can't even remember what the hell, the Outer Rim Post, or whatever the hell it is. And now they have the card plus the resource, and you're like, why would they do that? I was supposed to be able to claim. And it's like, no, if they resolve the resource, they'd get 1 resource, and then you'd get a resource. By them claiming they got the resource, you got jack shit, and they have the battlefield. So they shut off all your stupid stuff, like hasty exits, dug-ins, defensive positions, and like, this action setup thing's huge, and people are just not aware. And but yeah, it's like these small things that go over the course of a game to lose you or win you a game. So, get your shit tight, guys. Like, get the reps in, get an understanding of the different things. You got to do it. But, Sabine's still in a good place. A lot of decks just don't want to fight her. There's a lot of hate going on for Bro TK. There's going to probably be some hate coming in for Boba 7 soon. People, like, pretty much getting hit by Maul Saber twice in a round can end the round, or end the game. Sabine can't survive that shit. But, she may have a better time of coping with it than when OTK does it, because OTK will do it, she'll answer whatever, and then they'll untap and try to do it again. And that's just really hard for them. But Thrawn Talzin does have some major issues with Ezra, so keep this in mind if you plan to try to play that. They have absolutely no way to eat both of their resources before Ezra could steal one with a special or like a disrupt. Well, they do have one way. They can cast a Tactical Mastery and then another 1-drop, but that just feels so wholly inefficient that Ezra would have to be showing a special instead of a disrupt for you to really even consider doing that. So it gets a little tough there because of that. So just keep that in mind, that Sabine Ezra could be a scary match, just because if Ezra hit like double special or special resource, they are good to go. Tons of money in the bank, and they're just gonna run off with stuff. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And Thrawn can't sit there and even begin to try to call a weapon. You probably wouldn't do that anyways versus most regular decks. But yeah, like, you don't even get the option. So, but yeah, man, that's the gist of it. Like, some of these new decks are very, very great. Some are much easier to play than others. But realistically, if you're grabbing any of these decks, make sure to get tons of reps in. Play against all the different decks so you get a feel for them. You can kind of see where what you're looking at as a whole, as far as like noticing the same situation come up over and over and over again, so that you're already, you know, well prepared to play against it. I'm trying to think like what other newer decks there is. So I have yet to even touch the Elite Yoda, Elite Ezra, Rookie Pilot vehicle thing. I really like 5-die decks. I think that could hit relatively hard. I don't know how they would really like clear the way besides like Phil and scruffy looking Nerf herder, and I don't know if they can really afford to pay for the scruffy while trying to get out big vehicles. So one of you guys can tell me how that goes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was relatively newer. I expect you guys to potentially see FN make its comeback. I'm planning to play FN at regionals in 2 weeks, unless we end up finding the deck's just so good that people yell at me to not play it. But this weekend coming up is Maryland regional, I think Rochester, New York regional. I don't know the other ones, but we're getting a lot of the East Coast ones now. Trying to think if there's anything else relevant before, you know, send you guys off. I don't know. Like, we've pretty much seen Mill fall off because the whole like Sabine thing. I don't think Mill has a great time versus stuff like Boba 7th, but I don't play Mill, so I really don't know how good those super aggressive matchups are. I would think like the Mill deck would be pretty okay versus Maul Saber in general because of the number of shields they generate, and then versus an aggro deck, all those garbage shoots, easy pickings come into fruition very, very well. So their removal package seems amazing. So like, if let's say these Boba 7th decks end up crushing Sabine decks, which I'm really not sure if that's better than a 50-50, because I've pretty much lost to Sabine with my Boba 7th every time I like matched it, but I like beat it every time with Bro TK. So if Sabine just sees too much Bro TK and is like, well, screw this shit, or Boba 7th ends up being like a very bad match for Sabine, then you can see Sabine's potentially like decrease in play and see Mill make a comeback. Also seeing Obi Maz from Chicago start seeing more play. The whole like RI into concentrate, or just RI into roll out, so that you can safely protect your actual good rolls, seems hugely relevant. I played against one for Season 5. My deck was Rainbow 9s because I'm trying to make things work, and that deck's a fucking dumpster fire. like not the Obi-Maz, I mean my Rainbow Nines deck's a dumpster fire. Tried to do stuff, was not going well. It could be deck not loving me, you could blame it on die rolls, doesn't matter. We played best 2 out of 3, and he dumpstered my ass. So yeah, no bueno on that front. But the Obi-Maz thing was very interesting. It played well enough. 3s hit really hard, and they're even much harder when your removal sucks, and they have access to RI, so they're just sitting there, they're like, oh, here's a truce, and you're like, oh, cool, I got a resource. And they roll out, and they're like, oh, look, it's a 3, and you're like, oh, shit. Or, like, okay, rolled out, no RI. Alright, that's fine. Then it's like, truce, roll out Maz, and you're like, double focus, and you're like, oh, God. Or just, you know, concentrate into RI. Alright, Vibro to a 2. Obi to a base 3. The other Obi's already at like a 3 for a resource, and you're just like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. I definitely had one of the matches, I think my FN took like a damage, maybe 2, and he rolled out, I think with an RI. Yeah, and he did something where he popped 10 damage. He showed 10 damage, and I was not able to cast a card to even try to remove it. And my FN took it to the dome piece and died like a little bitch. And it was not pretty, man. It was not pretty. But the Obi-Maz deck looked pretty solid. You smash people with 3s and you can protect your guy from dying. Seems pretty good. They do need a lot of money, though. Like, they don't play huge upgrades right now, which makes their removal suite more useful. And then they run that 2-drop ambush event that gives 3 shields, so that's very good once they've dedicated like who they're gonna hit, and now you just you know, ambush into 3 more shields, and they're just like, oh my god. Especially since a lot of people have removed a lot of their shield hate. Intimidates went away. There's enough people playing on Ewok Garden, or Ewok, I think I'm gonna call it Ewok Village. I think it's Village, not Garden. But that deck seems super solid. Anytime you have RI and dice fixing into 3s, the deck's gonna seem very good. But other than that, in general, it was pretty solid. It was hard to get consistency in the deck. So it's apparently been found. Good job, Anthony. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really uses that. Haven't seen a ton of Yoda Zeb. But I think that may have won one as well. I don't know if it was running the RI stuff. But Yoda in general, very good. We'll see where that goes. We'll see if we see more Yoda Force Wave abuse, Yoda Force Throw. It's like, it's hard because you really want yellow for like friends in low places and like easy pickings. But the yellow options for Yoda end up being like, alright, well, Sabine, you don't really run Force Throw there. Zeb, you could probably actually run Force Throw there, but you don't have 3s, so it doesn't make you feel as good about fixing the dice. Or your 3s cost a resource, so it doesn't make you feel good about fixing the dice. You could technically do like Yoda Obi, but like, why not just have Maz then? You could do Yoda Qui-Gon, and Force Throws and stuff there could be super solid, and same with Force Wave, because you put on either character. Like, realistically, they may have to go for Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon's a bigger threat with the weapons. So being able to afford Force Wave or Force Throw on a Yoda can make him hugely relevant without doing too many crazy things. So we'll kind of see where that goes. I think it'd be interesting to take a deeper look into that. You probably don't do anything like Yoda Ayla, but you could go like Yoda double Padawan, and then like smash down like huge the bigger weapon upgrades, and then try to still sneak in Force Throws and Force Wave. But you pretty much know in that deck list, like, Yoda's going to be the one that gets attacked. So it's pretty hard to like throw a Force Wave on him, and it's not a weapon, so you don't really want to put it on a Padawan. Plus the Padawans have 7 health. But we'll kind of see where this ends up taking it. I think Yoda with the special chained option, like 3-drop stuff, is pretty scary. Like, I remember there was the whole like Rey Ezra Maz deck from before, so you could potentially do that as well with Yoda. So it'd be like Ezra, Ray, Elite Yoda, and then all three of those guys could actually still get the Force powers because Ezra's special ability. And then you can still have stuff like Garbage Chute and Easy Pickings, because you could kind of just give up, Ezra or Ray, whichever one you're not suiting up, and just put all the upgrades on them instead of Yoda, and see if you can get them to still attack Yoda while these big upgrades are coming down and like smashing. Not quite sure what you would end up really doing with it, but it could be interesting in and of itself if someone could figure out a deck list there. But this is just musing. It doesn't make it a good deck. Like your base damages are all over the freaking place because Ezra's base is crap with one die when you have no other range stuff going, and then the same applies to Ray, who's got like a 1 and a +2, so it's pretty much the same setup. But like the other thing is that Ray's die is even worse when you take into consideration that Yoda doesn't have an actual resource side. He's a special, so like Ray's modifiers becomes hugely irrelevant as well. So that deck may just be a steaming pile of poop, but I think it would be interesting to see. So we'll definitely see what ends up coming from this. The other version, I think, had Elite Ezra, Elite Maz, and a 1-die Ray, so it started with 5 dice. And Ezra's a dick, so that, like, you get all the action cheating with Ray. So who knows what we'll end up seeing. But it seems interesting to say the least. So we'll figure it out. I think that's pretty much it. So 40 minutes. Talk about some of the top tier stuff. Living Alive. We talked about the worlds. Don't forget, you or anyone you know has an extra links to do the purchases. Let us know at thehyperloops@gmail.com. thehyperloops@gmail.com. And just so you know, it's not after you've bought the ticket in your name, and then you're trying to get it right, because the only thing you can do there is you can trade with people. But it's when you haven't purchased the ticket, you could give that link away to somebody else and let them go buy it. But also, guys, just be aware, like if someone's offering to sell you the link or whatever, try to do it on the up and up. If you PayPal, I would say don't do it friends and family. Even if you have to pay the extra like 2.5%, 3%, whatever for the fee, do it. Because what ends up happening is let's say someone's trying to scam you with the link. You don't want to just lose the money. Get that buyer protection. Even if you have to bite the bullet and buy it off someone, just cover your own butt. Because like we're talking low amounts. Like if someone's scalping you the ticket, you're having to comp like $50 for it. Like the worst thing that could happen is that you pay the 50 and you got scammed. I understand a lot of this goes on Facebook and Discord, but these are people we really don't know. So please don't get scammed. Like that would suck. Keep it on the up and up. Pay the 3%. Like on $50, we're talking about like what, $1.50. Yeah, like just pay it and move on with your life. I don't know why people really go friends and family if it's not like a trusted person or that you know them, like physically know them. Because like, I've been scammed by people I've met in card games in general, like online trades. We traded stuff, and then I got owned because the guy like was quitting the game and he was apparently a scumbag and I had no idea. So yeah. But yeah, keep hopefully for those of you that can't find anyone that has the tickets, and you really want to go to Worlds, you'll be able to get in there. But we'll see how that goes. In general, thanks for watching as always. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for comments and feedback. And if you want, go check out the website, thehyperloops.com. We don't have the advertisements or any of the stuff on there. We do put a little Patreon thing at the bottom for our Discord and stuff like that, but it's easily to ignore that if you don't want to read that. So do. You guys enjoy and have a great one. I'm Sarcastic reporting out. Woo!